It was 2013 and my girlfriend and I were spending Christmas in Hawaii, which, other than the statue of a shirtless Santa and the ocean-themed Christmas trees, was honestly just like any other day on the island. One filled with ocean cruises to watch the sea life, hiking up ridgelines and exploring old wartime monuments, and time at the beach. Lots and lots of beach time. Which meant that once we got back home, well, it may have just been the snow-filled streets, but I had the urge to leave again. Now, Alyssa and I were used to going and doing things that other people thought were kind of strange, like sliding into containers filled with muddy ice water, or low-crawling underneath barbed wire. But when I suggested she join me on a cross-country motorcycle trip, well, she just kind of laughed and looked at me like I was crazy. But I was determined to go, and so I spent the next few months making purchases and modifying my bike for whatever lay ahead. And so if I thought it would make my bike more capable, whatever it was, I purchased it and began to install it. GPS mounts, auxiliary wiring ports. I didn't know what the trip would entail, but I knew it would be a lot of time on isolated backcountry roads, and I wanted to be prepared.
Okay.
And eventually, both the bike and I were ready. And with the turn of a key, I set off. Finally leaving home to start my way on an epic road trip. A trip that would take me from the suburbs of DC, down the Blue Ridge Parkway, and across the Appalachians, across the rolling hills of Tennessee, over the Mississippi River, through the Ozarks, and across the Oklahoma Panhandle, exploring the Four Corners, the Grand Canyon, and the American deserts, up the California coastline, making a beeline to Bonneville, down through Moab and the Colorado Rockies, over and across the flyover states, over to a buddy's house in Green Bay, and then finally making a quick run back home. But before any of that, I had to fight my way through the DC morning commute. Serves me right for trying to leave on a Monday morning. Not surprisingly, a few minutes later I found myself needing to stop for a different reason. It seemed like, for all my planning, I never once thought about how to keep all my gear strapped onto the bike. And now, not even 2 miles from home, on paved streets no less, and it was all starting to fall off. So I pulled onto the side of the road and climbed off the bike.
There. And off.
And for apparently the first time, thought about how to keep everything strapped down. Because if I couldn't do this part right, well, how would I possibly be able to manage on the dirt trails of Moab?
Let's adjust.
Eventually I had everything figured out, and I sped down I-66, eager to get away from the city. Now I didn't want to spend too much time on the interstate, but it was the fastest way out of town. Soon enough, I found my exit, and I was able to start making my way down the back roads of Virginia.
Clear right, clear left. There we go. Oh, it zooms in on the... Oh, that's awesome. And... Oh, just my luck. I'm gonna be behind some woman on a cell phone. And I bet you, because she drives a Mercedes, she thinks she's something special. At least she's going at a decent speed.
Yep, I was moving. In fact, the only issue I had right now is just I was cold and it was windy. Two things I really wasn't expecting for in mid-April.
I really do not like this wind. Granted, I'm on a motorcycle, so I'm facing nothing but wind for the entire next month. But that's not the point. This is like the crosswind, the actual wind on top of the movement. Those cows don't like the wind either. Look at them all huddled together like that.
And so I kept on keeping on, just enjoying the scenery as I rode, because that's part of what this trip was about. Just going out and seeing things. But every now and then I'd just get lost in my mind or zone out, and the next thing I knew, I'd end up missing a turn. Turning around on a small 2-lane road was relatively easy enough. There's no traffic, so you just turn around wherever you feel like. Other spots, well, it wasn't quite so easy. Missing a turn in a city is easy. You can just go up to the next red light and do a U-turn. But on the main twisty mountain roads, you kind of have to wait until you can find a legit spot to turn around.
Did I miss my turn? Crap, I missed my turn. Well, this is where you can go and turn around then.
Considering how small some of these roads were, though, I was lucky that the GPS could even find them.
This little road. Slow, narrow road. 15 miles an hour. Okay.
But not every U-turn was a mistake. Sometimes I just needed to stop and shoot some B-roll. This was supposed to be a documentary, after all. Even if I didn't quite have the production value of Ewan McGregor's The Long Way Round, I was still wanting something decent. And with that piece of footage locked in the memory card, I placed my helmet back on and set off once again. Only to find another issue a few miles down the road.
Let's see one more look around the bike. How are things holding up? That's still there, that's still there. I never did tie that down. Damn, oh well. That's still on tight. Shit. I had a GoPro right here. Damn it. Well, one casualty. Everything else seems to be staying put.
The missing GoPro would not be the only camera issue I'd have that day. The long cable powering my helmet cam was a nuisance, to say the least. Not only would I get tangled up in it from time to time, but it'd drape down the side of the bike, getting caught in the exhaust and shorting itself out, killing that camera and leaving me alone with just one GoPro. One camera is not how you shoot a documentary. Soon I was faced with another problem when, as I approached the turn, my brake failed. Not something I wanted on this type of back road. But rather than stopping to fix it, I carried on, thinking it might be something transient. I was wrong. And pulling over to the side of the road, I got off and took a look, only to find that my brake was leaking. I had just had the bike serviced days before I left on this trip, so I'd assumed everything was good. Well, it was my fault for not double-checking the service department. I tightened everything up as best as I could, and I pushed on, hoping for the best. It wouldn't happen. Well, I just had my first fall, and kind of lucky, I guess. I mean, could have fallen down that cliff right there, but didn't, thankfully. Good thing. Yeah, I guess this is a bit of an eye-opener. This trip won't be as easy as just driving 5,000 miles west and turning around, driving 5,000 miles back. It's gonna be a bit of work. It's gonna be a bit of work. But I'm okay. The bike's okay. I'm putting the luggage back on now after picking everything back up. We can press on. We're good. But I still felt like being cautious for the rest of the day. Which is good because things don't only get worse from there on. I've lost a GoPro. My rear brake no longer works. The last 2.5, 3 hours have been in heavy rains, added with some fog. Honestly, it was so bad at some points. I'm following the car behind and in front of me, because if I wasn't following him, I wouldn't have no idea where the road would go, where the lanes end, and I probably would be dead if it wasn't for that. And to top it all off, just before I got to the hotel, this happened. I broke a foot peg. So, yeah. Great first day. Great first day. I forced myself out of bed around 3 a.m. It was cold and raining. Without any good cold weather gear, I threw on a motorcycle jacket and headed outside to begin fixing the bike. I had an early morning reservation at the Biltmore estate and a 90-mile ride to get there. Like the day before, this day would not be a fun one. Okay, got the foot peg fixed. Now I just have to bleed the brake line, and then the bike should be good to go again. You can still ride. As a kid, my family and I had gone to the Biltmore estate several times. And since my trip was taking me through Asheville now, I had bought tickets for a tour I'd never been on, the rooftop tour. So it seemed only fitting that now it was cold, wet, and an all-around miserable day to be outside.
If you're ready to go inside, which some of you may be ready pretty quick,
Well, this was kind of a bust. Heavy rains, heavy wind. I mean, it's a great place to see, but it's significantly nicer in the daytime when it's bright and sunny and not like this. Of course, now that I finished my tour, the rain was beginning to stop. As much as I wanted to spend more time at the estate, my plan was to spend the night in eastern Tennessee instead, hundreds of miles away. But between the problems with the bike, my cameras, and even the cell phone I had killed the night before in a flooded jacket pocket, I honestly didn't know if that was possible. I made my way down the miles of driveway, through the gardens and towards the exit, thinking about the trip so far. It seemed like everything was against me. Even the wildlife was out to get me. More than anything, though, I wanted to find a dry place with a warm meal. This is probably the only McDonald's that I know of that has a grand piano. Crazy. And it's crazier. The sun's out, but it's still raining. And I don't know what I'm gonna do. I need to get the bike fixed. I need a new phone. And I'm very tempted to just call it a day a wash, grab myself a hotel, and start fresh tomorrow. And that's exactly what I did. So I'm spending the night in Asheville. It's cold. And it's windy. And it's raining. And I don't feel like messing with any of it. My gloves are soaked, my hands are freezing. So, yeah. I'm going to spend the night here. I'm going to get the bike sorted out. I'm going to get myself a new cell phone. And I'm going to fix whatever it is that's wrong with my helmet cam so I can actually start making decent videos again. Because for the last 2 days, my cameras have not been working like they should. So, time to get everything fixed. Next time, I ask a question. Whose idea was it to come here anyways? Oh yeah, mine. A cow looks at me strangely. and I put on a shirt in the dark.